This is a regular meeting of the Northfield Public School Board. Today is Tuesday, October 27, 2025, and the time is 6 p.m. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. The recording of this meeting will be posted on the district website as soon as possible. Welcome members of the community here tonight to observe the important work being done on behalf of all school district stakeholders. Dr. Hillman, we have some items in the table file. Will you update us?
Yes, you have some supporting documents for the review of the state of the district presentation that I'll provide the board this evening. Also, a number of consent agenda items, including appointments, increase, decreases, and changes in assignment, a couple of leaves of absences, and we have a grant application.
Thank you very much. If there are no objections, we will add these items to the agenda as we move forward. Is there a motion to accept the agenda as presented? Thank you, Jeff. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Maggie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Right, motion passes. We're now on to public comment section of our agenda, and we do have several speakers tonight. I will call you up one by one, and let me read our policy first. This is an opportunity for residents, business, and/or property owners, parents, guardians, caregivers, students, employees of the Northfield School District to address the board. All comments to the board must adhere to the guidelines set in place by District Policy 206 regarding public comment. This is not a time to debate an issue, but only for the board to hear your comments. You are prohibited from making comments about specific students, staff, and administrators. The board respects and values input, but when it relates to a specific individual or a specific matter, this input must be heard by the appropriate personnel, including the building principal or superintendent, and not during an open meeting of the school board. You will be gabbled out of order if your comments are not in compliance with these guidelines. Please address the board from the podium. After being recognized by the chair, identify yourself and if you represent a group. We require that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. You are not allowed to yield your time to another person. It is expected that members of the public will address their remarks with civility and respect. Personal attacks by anyone addressing the board are unacceptable. The board has allotted up to a total of 30 minutes for public comment at regular school board meetings. I will now begin to call those who have signed up in the order in which they signed in. Vice Chair Corey Butler will be monitoring the speaker's time. He will signal each speaker with the time they have remaining at 1 minute, 30-second, and 10-second intervals. Again, please make your comments as brief as possible, but no more than 3 minutes. Okay, first we have Karen Mader. Welcome.
Thank you. I am here again. I think I've been here monthly through the summer, and I'm just advocating for the PTOs in each of the elementary schools to allow a Be Smart presentation. And at first I felt some resistance from that, but I think it's more of a reluctance. It's a nonpartisan teaching adults to be responsible for firearms around children. I am very excited because this last week I attended a gun violence prevention town hall in Carver where Gabby Giffords was. There were quite a few family members from Annunciation and doctors and teachers and people, and they said that an anonymous reporting system is so important. So I had a question about that before the meeting tonight. But I have to tell you, I have a breakthrough. I am going to be doing a 5 to 10 minute presentation at the Greenvale Park PTO in November. So perhaps we can sort of keep that momentum going. And I was here when Atticus proposed the student pledge be a slow rollout through this year. And so I'm sort of excited that there's some movement happening. So thank you again.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the Northfield High School Animal Science, and I'm going to call each of the 3 speakers. You can come up and stand together, but only have one of you speak at a time. So we have John Wearsome, Carter Feldman, and Lily Smock. Welcome.
Hi, my name is John Weirson. I am a sophomore. Tonight I come here in front of the Northfield School Board to speak on behalf of the high school animal science class and also our school in general. We say thank you to the Pash family and the school board for letting us use the Raider goats as an opportunity to further grasp concepts and learning objectives for the animal science class. This hands-on experience was not only engaging, but fun to learn a real-life situation. My favorite goat was Clover, but having 5 to engage with allows for a smaller group sizes, so therefore more hands-on opportunities. Thank you for your time again.
Hi, I'm Lily. I'm with Animal Science. I want to thank you all for letting us have the goats. It was really fun having a hands-on learning. We had smaller groups, and we all got to do work, like what's it called? Like temperature and stuff. And I want to thank you all for letting us have the opportunity.
Hi, my name is Carter Feldman. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to get outside and not be stuck in a classroom all day. I like to go outside. I like to get fresh air and the hands-on experience, and to be able to do that outside with the goats. I really appreciated that. So thank you for your time.
Excellent. Okay, those are all the comments that we have tonight. Moving on to item 4, which is announcements and recognitions. Dr. Hillman.
Yes, we have several announcements this evening. If I turn my microphone on. It is the athletics roll call at this time of the year, and boy, do we have quite a bit of it. So proud of our Raider athletes. We'll start off that the girls cross country team won their 5th consecutive Big 9 conference championship. That sets a new record for the most conference titles by any cross country team, boys or girls. So congratulations to the girls cross country team. And then they one-upped it because they both boys and girls Raider cross country teams swept the section meets. And so they will advance to the state meet at the University of Minnesota at the golf course there this Saturday, November 1st. The times are, I believe, 12:15 and 1 p.m. for those races. We also want to congratulate our Raider boys soccer team who advanced to the state semifinals. They'll play the Blake School tomorrow, October 28th at 12:30 p.m. It's at US Bank Stadium. And they were propelled there by a very exciting last-second quarterfinal win against Sartell last week. 0-0 going into the final 10 seconds and scored with 3 seconds remaining. So very exciting for that team that had won 3 consecutive section titles, but had not advanced beyond the quarterfinals to be able to get to the bank. And a very exciting piece for that team. And I expect we'll have a lot of fans there tomorrow. We have a few other notable sports achievements that's just this time of year. The volleyball team won the Big 9 title again, and they will compete in the Section 1 AAA semifinal. That's home on Wednesday of this week against Cass and Manterville. If they win that match, they'd advance to the section championship on Saturday. Another barn burner, if you will, one for the ages. The Raider football team defeated Owatonna on Saturday night, scoring 13 points in the last 90 seconds and escaping a potentially game-tying field goal. And so they beat Owatonna for the second time this year, and they'll compete against Rochester Mayo in the Section 1 5A championship. Originally, that was announced to be on Friday, October 31st, but there was a scheduling conflict at the field in Rochester, and so that has been moved to November 1st. So really excited for the activity success this year. We're also starting to shift into concert season. So the first high school choir concert was last week. There's orchestra, all those kinds of things are coming up now too. So we're making that shift between seasons when music starts to come into play, and of course the fall play coming up in just a couple of weeks. So lots of exciting things happening in the school district. That's what we got.
Thank you so much. Board members, do you have any announcements or recognitions to add tonight? Okay. Item 5 is our items for discussion and reports. And first up, we have Director of Activities Department Improvement Showcase with Activities Director John Mahal providing the board with an overview of the department's successes and highlights from academic year 24-25 and focus areas for 25-26. Welcome, John.
Hi, welcome everybody. Great job there, Dr. Hellman, with the update coming up here. It was a busy day. Just to recap on that, I was telling Val coming in here, I mean, we have 6 fan buses going up to the US Bank tomorrow. I suspect there'll be many more students that just find their way there as well. So it's been a busy day getting ready for preparation to have a great time tomorrow. So, okay, so a little bit of a review for the activities department from this past year. First and foremost, what I'm really excited about this slide is just how we do have an opportunity to touch so many of these different benchmarks within the school district. You'll be able to see, and you've probably read through the slide deck in terms of what we were able to do. So I really like that we get a chance to do a lot of different things across a lot of different platforms. Again, continue with the same thing there. District benchmarks, again, that you'll be able to see throughout. So our school improvement plan and purpose, again, there's lots of different stories that happen throughout the year with a lot of different things that we do, whether it be, again, sports, whether it be different activities, helping students set up different things, helping even teachers, create opportunities for students that might not kind of be there. So there's lots of great success stories there. You've seen the goals, again, in the board packet and the information that's there. We continue to do things, generally speaking, at a very high level, which I'm really proud to be able to help support that. And again, continue to inspire the action and align our efforts to support our building and district goals throughout. So the first one there is family engagement. We have the opportunity each season to be able to send out information and have our families be able to speak to or provide some data or information on how things went for their son or daughter. And you can see there the results were 88% were pleased with how things went. And I've made sure to put the last couple years on there for some perspective as well. Learner outcomes, 87% of participants will agree that they felt that sport or activity helped them feel connected, which again is above where they were at just last year. And then the anti-racism goal, our bleacher captains continue to do a very nice job of helping support our fans and community in leading loud but positive cheers there in the stands and around the building. And again, so we continue to be doing that at a very high level as well. So the first highlight there, and again, all the pictures, of course, are hopefully as recent as possible. So that's the boys soccer team. Again, like I mentioned, the surveys get sent out each season to be able to have families, if they feel like they want to be able to share feedback, they certainly can. It's great information to be able to have to come back, because there's times where there's real exceptional things that happen that maybe we don't know about. There might be questions or comments or concerns that they might have, but it all helps me do a lot of putting things together for different concepts when I have those conversations with coaches. Program specific results. Again, each activity receives its own set of student and family data that we talk through. And again, the conversations and how we try to move forward with things are definitely trying to be data informed actions so that those themes help those coaches, advisors continue to move forward and do great things with students. Head coaching and really coaching professional development. Last summer, we brought in a speaker from the Mentally Strong Institute to be able to come help provide some professional development for any of our staff, head coaches or assistant coaches that would be interested in coming in. Because I truly believe that as solid as our staff is, there's always room for improvement. There's always a way to find something to continue to tweak or to try to get better at. And again, that's an important piece of what we're trying to do as a department, is to provide those opportunities for staff to continue to grow. And then something that we started the last couple of years with Raiders Lead, that is, so the surveys that the families get a chance to fill out, the students get a chance to fill out, and then also the coaches get to fill out. They're all the same basic questions, which again allows for that continuity for me to be able to see across all of the different parties, to be able to understand, where, again, some themes may be. And we know that in terms of trying to lead people, it's really important that we figure out a way and we can make sure that we lead ourselves before we're trying to lead others. So again, we're trying to, again, like it says there, continue to impact students, coaches, and everybody that's involved there. And again, bleacher captains, this is a picture from homecoming. Again, we've already talked about kind of the loud and positive student section. And even just this week, I sent our bleacher captain information to one of the Big Nine ADs because they want to try to replicate what we're trying to do. You know, and I feel like, you know, bleacher captains has been something that's been around for what, 4-ish years. And, you know, each year we've done some conversation, some training with our student athletes that are a part of that, which is great. We had to really kind of come back to that this year a little bit more in depth for them because they might not have been, those students that are involved with things, they might not have been as involved with things, you know, 3-4 years ago. So here's the why. But then also, here's what you can do, because we did have some students question, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to cheer this way? And that's great that they ask questions and they asked it in a very respectful way. But it was also kind of coming back to, again, there's all these a menu of things that you actually can do that maybe you think maybe you can't do, but you can. And we encourage you to do it. We'd love to see you continue to do that. So again, we really came back this fall to try to hit this a little bit harder so that they can, again, know what those parameters and really what we're looking for overall. So the focus there is moving forward, again, to continue that student-coach connection, building that strong, valuing relationship, focus on the whole student. You know, wins and losses are definitely, you know, when the scoreboard turns on, we want to win, no question about it. But it's everything else that leads up to that as well, that those relationships are extremely important. Coaching continuity, overall, that's been solid, and we want to make sure that we're aligning all of our coaches with those shared values and that togetherness, like it says there, to foster unity across all of our activities. Isn't that a great picture? Sorry, I just love it. Bleacher captains, again, we want to, I guess I got ahead of myself a little bit there, but again, that training, like I talked about, focusing on cheering for our team, not against opponents or officials. I think a lot of people really appreciate that. Again, our student athletes do a great job of that. And then finally, we do utilize State High School League grants. You'll be, you know, voting on some of that here in a little bit, to be able to, for us to bring in speakers and utilize those funds to help continue the training or speakers for our, whether it be bleacher captains or whether it be our captains training as well. And then again, our family caretaker survey data, again, it's important to get feedback each year, each season, to understand themes and where things are at for that continuous growth and make sure that, again, we continue to try to push things forward and improve where we can. And then I thought it was important to be able to bring participation rates on here as well, just because, you know, with the increases that we had this year, already this fall, and now we have winter registrations happening. You can see kind of the trend there in the green from year to year, but this fall, even with the increases that we had to make based on the budgeting from last year, we're still very solid numbers across the board. Obviously for winter and then spring, we will see where that goes, but we're off to a really nice start because we've had dance started a week ago. Girls hockey started practicing today. So we'll kind of see where that goes as we get further down the line. And then there's spring as well. So you can see up through last spring, just where we're at. And the one thing that I didn't put on here, and I don't know how easy it is to track, but again, even students that are in band or choir, you different things that may not show up here, just how many students we have that are participating on a seasonal basis, if you will. When I talk with other activities directors, we're in a very envious spot with just the participation overall from our students in Northfield. So again, that feels really good. So it was, I think, kind of short and sweet, but I think you got the gist of things. And again, Dr. Hillman kicked it off or teed things up pretty well for me here. So with that, do you have any questions for me?
Excellent. Well done. Appreciate your report. Jeff.
Yeah, thanks for your leadership. And it's great to see the participation across the board. And I always kind of bring this up through the years. And this is it's nice to win. It's great to have good leadership. But having some fun, and I just think that we're really getting some good results on just putting together some good teams. And I think that, where activities in sports a lot of times is down in other districts. I mean, we're doing good, pulling kids in, and just keep it up. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else comment or question? Okay, Maggie and then Ben.
Thank you. And I know it's a busy week, so thank you for coming. Looking at the participation rates, just noticed some things that weren't listed on there, like robotics, speech, FFA. Can you just talk about kind of how some of those are under your purview in activities, and also have we attempted to kind of see what numbers of students are participating in something, beyond what is listed in these participation numbers?
Sure. Well, I know, and I know they'll be able to speak to it here a little bit better. FFA is, I think, having a resurgence within the school district. So yeah, that's definitely something that we can talk through in terms of the participation rates there. We definitely have, something else that's not on there as well, but it's because it's through community education. But like we host cheerleading, right? We have, I think, 17 or 18 cheerleaders as well this year. So there's definitely some pieces that are not captured on the slide that certainly could be. These are just the easiest numbers, I guess, to probably pull from. But definitely, in terms of trying to look through, in terms of what's student-led, what it might be some clubs within the school, there's a whole menu of options for our students to be able to choose from. That again can definitely be probably put onto that form for everyone to see.
All right, Ben.
Thanks, John. A lot of exciting stuff to talk about. Just a quick question. You mentioned the kind of activity fee piece of it. Have you had any feedback on that, just anecdotally, or?
This fall it was, we probably had a handful, 8 to 10 families request some type of financial assistance with things that we didn't have the previous year or is more minimally. So there was a little bit of an uptick, but not much overall. Again, I think overall people understood the why because it had been communicated, and we tried to communicate it again right before things opened up. But it's still, we have people probably wanting to come in and pay by check now to avoid any extra processing fee than anything. But that's just been just what we've seen so far in the 2 different seasons thus far.
Yeah, and we do have those opportunities, right, for scholarships.
Yes, of course. Yeah, so that anybody that has come in, our process is to make sure that first and foremost they're filling out the free reduced form just to see where they would qualify for things, and then we work with them from there. So anybody that has come in that needs any financial assistance, we have provided that, and everyone has been able to participate.
And just one more question: the head coach training, what was kind of the uptake on that? And then sort of another half question, but as I understand it, we have training too, or a course for any student that wants to be a captain within the kind of any of the sport programs?
Sure.
What does that look like too?
So the training in the summer, this past one at the Mentally Strong Institute, it was really, again, kind of talking through the mental side of, you talk so much, especially within athletics, around, the X's and O's, or maybe the getting stronger, that kind of a thing. But there's also that mental toughness, that mental, okay, this is a tough moment, taking football to, we're in a tough moment. We got a ways to go here to try to win this game. How do we try to make this happen? How do we overcome? So there's different things that the trainer worked on with our coaches to be able to give insight or ideas or things that they could work through with their student athletes to, again, encourage or practice even some of those items to be able to help them, again, in those moments. So it was overall, the feedback was really positive, that, again, everyone's able to walk away with a little something extra for their coaching hat, if you will. Captain's training, I say we, it's myself and it's Leah Sand, John Sand. They do a great job of every season. We get a list of who the captains are going to be within all of the different activities. And we try to, again, we include, everybody that has, the captains or student leaders, to be able to come in, and they do a couple-hour training with those student athletes to be able to, again, help them be a leader. Because just because you are a captain doesn't mean you're really comfortable being in that role, or saying something to somebody, or having those skills to be able to help support the team or the coaches or advisors. So again, they do a fantastic job with that. I wish we had more time with that, just because it is such a quality programming for our students. And again, I truly go back to, I don't say this lightly, other Big Nine, especially ADs, are very envious of what we are doing for our student athletes to help them with what they're doing, but then how we're trying to train them and support their growth off of the court, the field, in the classroom, kind of again, it goes back to that whole child. So I've been really pleased with that.
Fantastic. I wanted to piggyback off that question. I know it's popular for the rest of us, the bleacher captains. How about the students? Are they signing up more than you need? Are you having to track them down? What is that interest
It's a
like?
bit of both. This year was definitely, we need to find more boys
Okay.
to be a part of things. So again, we have a sign up there kind of in the spring, people signed up. And then from there, it's kind of just recruiting. You talk to a couple different kids, and then all of a sudden they bring a couple extra kids, and it kind of blossoms in that respect. So there's definitely a little give and take with that. I wish I could say that we just have an avalanche of kids, but we do have a good amount of kids that help support the programming. And you know how it is too. There's always a few different kids where, if you get that one or that two, more follow. And that's definitely what we try to help. If we see, like, hey, it'd be nice if we had a different voice or someone here that to help with that. So we definitely get strategic when we need to.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Oh, I'm sorry. Corey has a question.
Real quick, John, thanks. You had mentioned 8 to 10 more families or participants registered for financial need this year.
Mhm.
How's that compared to a normal year? Obviously, it's more, but
Yep.
do you know offhand how many families or participants, or what percentage of our?
I don't have that exact number, but per season in my first couple of years, it had been maybe 3 to 4 per season. And like I said, this past fall, it was definitely right around that 10-ish number. So a little bit of an uptick, like I said, but not to the degree that I wondered if would maybe happen, just based on the numbers.
Thank you.
Of course.
Excellent. Anyone else? Question, comment? Okay. Thank you, John.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
All right. Item B is the review of the state of the district. Each year, Superintendent Hillman shares with the Northfield Chamber of Commerce and Northfield Rotary the state of the district. He'll review now that presentation with us, the board, and review the district's Minnesota Comprehensive Assessment results. This presentation is in the table file.
And also I did one final update just before the meeting. So if you're accessing it from your folder, it's updated. But if you are the kind of person that printed something, we have some extra copies here should you need that if you printed it beforehand. Let's get all my stuff set up here. So for a long time, for decades, as a matter of fact, we have been providing a state of the district presentation to members of the Chamber of Commerce. And then over the past several years, we've given a flavor of that to the Northfield Rotary Club. And so what we've done over the years is because, they're open to the public, but not necessarily to the general public. Rotary, if you know a member, you can certainly attend the Chamber of Commerce event, which is well attended compared to their other luncheon events that they do. There's a fee associated. So we've decided to always give the board a review of the state of the district. And if you think about the venue, we try to do about a 20-minute or so presentation, then offer time for questions. And we've done it a variety of different ways over the years, but we really try to celebrate the things that have gone well. And we try to paint for the community some of the challenges that we face. So I'm going to present to you as if I was presenting to the community, and then of course take your questions at the end. So it's almost as if there's a method to the madness. This group sees this slide you see it in your packet every single meeting. Because one of the things that we know about successful organizations is that there is extreme clarity of vision. So we can't create a to-do list or a chart for every single decision or thing that people in the school district have to do every day. So if you have clarity of vision, and if you know that we're out to making sure that we prepare every student for lifelong success by developing critical thinkers who are curious and ready to engage in our society, when you don't have that playbook right in front of you, the vision should lead you. And many places they do a strategic planning process, and then somebody puts something up on a wall and it gathers dust. But I really am proud that in our district, our vision and our strategic commitments walk the halls. And it was really evidenced by, if you follow the Spring Creek's newsletter at all, they have a walkathon coming up that they are calling the Fast and the Curious. So I love it, that little connection to the district strategic plan. But it's really critical that the people who work here understand where we're headed. If you've ever worked for an organization that knows where they're going, compared to an organization that you worked for that didn't know where they were going, we know there's much more engagement in the districts that are or the organizations that are very clear. We actually measure this each year too in our employee engagement survey, and routinely had very high results from those questions. The strategic commitments, we really do use these. You know that we use these as the lens in which we do our best to make the decisions for the school district. From time to time, you have wrestled with conflicts that happen between strategic commitments. And how do we make a decision when multiple things are true at the same time? And which one is the right one to weigh more in that event? And so we share this with the community. We share this with you. We share this with our staff and our families, because we want all of us to be going in the same direction and not duplicating services, not duplicating efforts, so that we're all being as efficiently as we can to support students for lifelong success. So one of the things that community members are really curious about is the Reimagine Northfield High School project. And so, we know that a year ago, I was thinking I had to look up when election day was this year, and I can tell you I knew exactly when it was last year and how many minutes there were to it. We're so grateful for the overwhelming support that the community provided all three questions. And so what we've been rolling out to people is, this is an example of one of the slides that you've seen in Sal Bagley's reports. We've been sharing the walkthrough that is posted, the video walkthrough that's posted to our website, and really just sharing with people what's been happening, how did we do it. We've been focusing too on making sure that people know there was significant process and engagement, over 60 people involved in the core planning teams, hundreds more as we got to the user group phases. And so that process continues, but explaining to people that we do things with people, not to people. And so even something as complex as this particular project, we bring people to the table. We keep bringing people to the table to make sure that we're doing the best that we can with what we have when we have it. And so I think the process and the engagement that we've had with the community to reimagine Northfield High School has been second to none. Lots of people had a chance to have their feedback shared. And one of the greatest compliments I got has been that people could see the feedback in the plans, right? So teachers would come and say, people really listened, right? They actually did what we had suggested they do. And when you can't and you explain it, people can then accept that a little bit more easily. We also review with the community about the first bond sale. And so that first bond bid sale was really important because when we look at the pre-referendum information and we look at what we sold the bonds for, 3/4 of a percentage point less than what was projected, that is $8 million in savings, compared to the pre-referendum information. And so we're not going to pretend that, people are going to take a vacation with that savings when you do it across the entire tax base, but it does demonstrate our strategic commitment to stewardship and making sure that we're trying to build the best building that we can for the best amount of money or the most efficient amount of money for the community. So we're really happy with that first bid for the bond sale. Very excited about that. And then we want to, of course, thank Carleton College, because Carleton College, again, prestigious college right here in Northfield, that a $2 million donation toward this project is unusual. When you look across the country, there are some other examples of private colleges investing in their communities, but there are very few examples of a private college making this kind of investment in a public school facility. And if you remember, Carleton had promised to first give us the first $1 million when we did the first bond sale, and they had projected that they would provide that second $1 million when we did the second bond sale. But I'm happy to report to you that Carleton has fulfilled their promise. As of last week, we got the second $1 million wired to us. You say, well, it's great, under promise, over perform, but that also allows us to put that those funds and into our accounts and to be able to earn more interest on it. So that's a good thing, getting that earlier than what was promised. But I know when Carleton made that pledge, there were some folks who questioned that. Will they actually do it? And what I can tell you today is that they actually have done it. They completed the $2 million donation. So a topic that another topic that lots of community members are curious about is school safety. And it's obviously in our face all the time, right? We have seen some horrific acts across the country, and it is really disheartening, frankly, in a lot of ways. I will tell you how this impacts me personally as a leader. My alarm goes off every morning at about 5:15. I rarely sleep to my alarm, but the first thing that I do is I get up and I look at my phone to make sure that there was nothing that came in overnight around safety that we need to be worried about. And I try to stop. I try to say, no, you don't have to do that. We just can't get away from it. It is something that we are hyper vigilant about because we want to make sure that our students are safe. We prioritize student safety. And it is something that is at the forefront of our minds because, of course, parents should be able to expect reasonably that they should send their children to school. They should be safe and they should return home safely at the end of the day. That's a very basic concept. And my professional opinion is that we have not done enough work as a society to try to figure this out together. And I'll continue to encourage the legislature to take reasonable actions to promote school safety across the board. And we'll keep doing the things that we can do here in Northfield to the best of our ability. And so I give an annual report to you each year around the kinds of safety things that we implement. And then we do make adjustments, and we're making another adjustment where if you've ever had a child in early ventures, there's a key code that allows you to get into the building so we can keep exterior doors locked longer, right up until the start of the day. We're going to be implementing that same approach at other schools in the next few weeks, as we're always trying to balance, right, the safety and security versus making it a school, right? It's a school where children should be joyful and should be learning and not worried about that. So we're constantly balancing how do we do those physical safety improvements, which we've done a ton of those things over the years, and making sure that people think of it as a learning institution, a place that I look forward to going, and that I just don't feel that I'm safe, but I know that I'm safe. And so school safety is at the forefront of a lot of the work that we do. We were just talking earlier about an anonymous reporting system. We had used the TIP 411 system for a period of time. We've now shifted for just a short period of time to Crime Stoppers. That's the current one that we're using, but we will very likely be shifting to something that's called Say Something, which is a funded system by the Sandy Hook Promise. And so that's a national line that has a number of different resources. And so we're going to another session on that this week. Justin Robley, our director of buildings and grounds. And again, we think that that's another move in the right direction. And at the same time, I really want to thank St. Olaf College, because We have given Carleton a lot of gratitude for their $2 million donation toward the Reimagine Northfield High School facility. And St. Olaf College has given us a gift, one that we hope we never use, but at the same time, something that is worth at least $2 million, if not more. And so in the worst case scenario, if we really had an event that we had to evacuate a school, we've been trained in the I Love You Guys Foundation standard response protocol and their reunification protocol. So we're very fortunate that St. Olaf College has allowed us to use their site. And I'm not going to get into the details of it, but we can use their site as the final reunification location for parents. And so what that does is that allows us to have a large location where students and staff could be transported to, where parents can have a really great queuing system to be able to get onto the college campus, the support of campus police, the support of campus nutrition services, large areas where we can comfort students and be able to support them if we were to ever have to do this kind of relocation. And thanks to Justin Robley and former board member Mike Bertelson, former Buildings and Grounds Director Kevin Larson, they worked together to create a memorandum of understanding so that should we have to use that, we are able to do it. And I'll tell you, compared to a number of especially metro districts really find it very hard to secure a location large enough to be able to complete this kind of reunification. Our administrative team had a chance to do the 2 full days of I Love You Guys training in the summer. We had a chance to simulate reunification several times with district leaders, fulfilling the roles of people who would be leading that reunification. We have taken time. This picture on the screen is from an administrative meeting where we did another walkthrough at St. Olaf College. So we continue to work to be prepared for something that we hope we never have to use. But again, this goes to the point of that school safety is at the forefront of our minds, that we're talking all right now about the physical structures and the physical kinds of things that we do and the planning. But at the end of the day, it's also all about making sure that students feel valued and loved at school and that there's at least one adult who they look at as in their corner. You've heard that a number of times from our school improvement plans. So school safety is about more than just the physical and the security piece. It's also about promoting safety through connection. And I feel very lucky that this community does step forward and help us out with this. There's more room to go. As a society, we need to figure this out. It is reasonable for parents to feel they can send their children to school and they should come home safely at the end of each day. If we can't do that as a society for people, I'm not sure what we're doing here, right? So we have to keep working on that. We'll keep doing it under what's under our control, and we'll keep advocating for additional common sense solutions at the state and federal level. I want to shift to school improvement planning. So we have had a robust school improvement planning system for, again, probably close to 2 decades now. And one of the things that in our pursuit of continuous improvement is we continue to learn how important it is to provide inspiring or short mottos, if you will, that can help staff think through what they need to do when they don't have the playbook in front of them. And it turns out that saying improving a score from 4.72 to 4.74 doesn't, really whip people up every morning, right? And so thinking about how could we simplify this? How could we make it a mindset of improvement planning, rather than this very specific decimal point driven system? And not that there's anything wrong. We love SMART goals. We still are doing SMART goals, but we wanted something more. We wanted something that would describe what we're seeking. And we've determined that the 80-90-100 framework is the next place that we're going to go. And this was the result of more than a year's worth of discussions and just thinking through how can we do this in such a way that is memorable, leans into the systems that we have, and can inspire change. And so we first start off with saying we'd like to seek 80% academic proficiency. And if I were the public, the first thing I would say is, why only 80%? Don't we want, doesn't your vision statement say every student? One of the first things we need to recognize is that not every student is going to reach grade level standard at the same time or at the same rate. And so we have an arbitrarily constructed system of grades in our public education system. And there's a range of when, students are ready to actually be able to demonstrate proficiency. And if we were to have 80% of our students academically proficient at their grade level standards in that year, we have a number of other systems. You've heard them all before. MTSS, special education, Torch, EL, all these other systems that are designed to be able to support students. And at 80% of students meeting proficiency, we can efficiently help the other 20% get there when they're ready, right? So as they are ready. And so this 80% academic proficiency piece, it also takes it back from the No Child Left Behind, really unrealistic piece of every student, 100%. There is no planet in which 100% of students are going to be proficient at that moment in the grade level. It was an honorable aspirational goal, but we've got 20 some years worth of data to say that we have not gotten there yet. So we have to do something different. And so when we talk to teachers about saying, can we get 8 of 10 students academically proficient? That is doable versus 10 of 10. It also unifies our system, because one of the failings of No Child Left Behind is it only focused on some specific academic areas and did not recognize other areas like agriculture education, like family and consumer science, like art. And now every subject area can develop what are the proficiency rates or the proficiency standards that they want their students to meet. And they are able to look and have a unified approach. And I'm going to show you what 80% academic proficiency would mean for us rated compared to the state in a few minutes. 90% SEL proficiency. Again, if 9 of 10 students could come to school, let's go further. Let's say 9 of 10 adults, right, come to school ready and proficient in their social emotional learning for that day. We have the tools and the systems to be able to support the 10% who aren't there yet. And so again, if we have 90% of students coming with those skills that we know are healthy for social emotional learning, we can support the students who aren't there either on that day or aren't there yet. Again, this is about efficiency of systems. So this is an area of where we are discussing yet again, what does SEL proficiency mean? We ask some questions each year on the SSIS survey that we use as an indicator. And at the same time, what is the method of instructing in SEL that is important? We've tried a number of things over the years. The SEL team is reviewing the way that we approach SEL here over the next few months and going to make some recommendations of how we move forward. But again, we know that not every human being is demonstrating SEL proficiency every day. But if the vast majority of people can, we have the helping staff who can assist those who need the additional support at that time. And at the end of the day, we want 100% of students feeling safe and 100% of students growing. So even if we have students who are not getting to proficiency, we want to make sure that they're growing. And conversely, something that's as important in this discussion, if we do have students who are consistently modeling proficiency, are they still growing? So if I'm a student who's in the 98th percentile year after year, but I'm not growing as much, then we're doing a disservice to that student as well. And so how do we make sure that we continue to help every student grow regardless of where they're at? Now, I posited the question just a few moments ago about what would 80% academic proficiency mean for our school district? And I would tell you that it would mean we'd be one of the top 5 districts in the state, but that's undershooting it as well. We would actually be number 1 in the state this year if we had 80% proficiency across all students, across all grades. So right now, when we look at this past year's data, Northfield Public Schools outperformed 93% of the school districts in the state on all students, also all students reading across all grade levels. And so we outperformed 93% of school districts on that measure. In fact, in none of these 3 areas I'm going to show you did any school district reach 80% proficiency. So outperformed 93% of the districts. In mathematics, we outperformed 89% of the districts across Minnesota. And in science, which we're going to talk about in a moment, we outperformed 93% of districts. This state context is important because proficiency rates aren't exactly where we would like them to be yet. But it's important to put the proficiency ratings in the state context. And so you might ask, well, how did you get that data? Well, we know how to get the raw data form from the state. There's a spreadsheet you can download. And Hope Langston, several years ago, our former instructional services director, created templates that we were able to pull this data in and we're able to visualize it. These are Tableau visualizations. So Carrie Duba, one of our instructional systems specialists, is now responsible for that. So we have a data system that we can slice and dice and look at various demographic groups, et cetera. On these slides, Northfield is the maroon bar and the gold bars are the other Big 9 conference districts. So, obviously we're at 93, 93, and 89th percentiles. We are at the top of the Big 9 on all of those measures at this time. And I do want to talk about the MCA 4. So as a baby teacher, almost 30 years ago, we started with the basic skills test, right? That was the piece that was being implemented in my second or third year of teaching. And it was really 8th grade math and reading was really what it was. And then it evolved to the MCA, the Minnesota Comprehensive Assessment. And every few years, there's new standards. And when the new standards come out, the new statewide assessment is produced. And so we currently had been on the MCA 3. reading and math this past year were still the MCA 3, and the science was the first MCA 4 this year. And so what you'll see every time that we have switched the assessment, you will see a pretty significant drop in proficiency across the state. As evidence, we had a 36% proficiency rate in science across all grades. That is not where we want to be. And yet when you put it in the state context, it's the 93rd percentile. And so what we know is the next generation science standards have reshuffled some of the content of how we teach science. Our science teachers have done an excellent job of adapting and implementing these new standards. It's going to take some time for them to show up in the data. Whenever we've had a cutover in my career, you always see that proficiency drop back in the first assessment, fairly common. I also mentioned that we have not been tremendously pleased with, you'll see that in 10 of 14 areas, we saw a decline in proficiency year over year. And of course, none of us would be happy to see a decline in proficiency. But we also really wholeheartedly hypothesize that we are living out something that's an educational research topic called the implementation dip. Michael Fullen, a researcher, is most prominent in describing this. And what implementation dip describes is that when you launch new concepts or you launch new instructional methods, you tend to have going, even though you feel like you're making progress, you see regression initially in the standardized test results. And then you will see that it will lead to sustained gains over time. And so I use this slide here just to show that we wholeheartedly believe we're in the middle of the implementation dip, especially at the elementary. If you think about it, last year we implemented a brand new mathematics curriculum that focused on a different way of instruction than what we had done before. And then the same piece as our staff fully are now trained in the elementary and the science of reading. As people are learning, in fact, TNTP, a partner that we have, they talk about when you initially start working with new curricular or new strategies, you have something that's called a mechanical use. So it's almost like I'm reading from the book. I'm trying to figure it out as I go. And then as I keep doing it, if you think about any new thing that you've done in your life, it takes a little bit. You feel mechanical for a while, and the goal is to get to skillful use. That would be when we're at the top of the sustained gains trajectory. The MCA is also a lag indicator. So a lag indicator means we're looking back. And what we're trying to do is partner what we call lead indicators with the lag indicators. And so when we are doing some intentional observation of mathematics classrooms based on the research-based methods that we know help students learn mathematics in a way that will allow them to apply it more productively. And across those dozens of observations, we are seeing teachers effectively implement the new strategies, right? So that is giving us hope and belief that we will see those results come forward on the standardized tests as we move ahead. We're seeing some similar things in our FastBridge results for reading. And FastBridge is a really progress monitoring tool. It's more of a dipstick, so it allows us to check progress along the way. So obviously, at the end of the day, you got to show up on proficiency, right? But what we know is that we have taken the steps to improve our practice. Our teachers have worked incredibly hard. I'm so proud of them. And right now, we hypothesize that we are in the implementation dip portion of the continuous improvement cycle. Real positive piece out of the data this year was a 12+% increase in 10th grade reading. And we have struggled across the state and across the nation with state issued assessments for high schoolers. There's a little bit of test fatigue, right, that we see when students reach high school. We have very high participation rates compared to others. And at the same time, students know that these particular assessments don't have the same weight necessarily as something like the ACT or the AccuPlace or the ASVAB test when they're preparing for post-high school success. So 10th grade last year, they did something different. They did incentivize the MCA test. We now get rapid results. We can tell preliminarily if a student has reached proficiency or not. And so when students take the assessment, if they have demonstrated proficiency, there's been some incentives toward their final grade. That really, we had felt there were more students who were proficient than there had been showing up on that particular assessment. So we're experimenting with ways to incentivize and include the statewide standardized assessment as part of a student's grade. That seems to have some motivation, which we're pleased with. Again, advanced placement. We have a culture of advanced placement work in our schools. 342 students took 567 different AP tests, 78% of them earning a 3 or higher. And a 3 or higher, depending on the institution, that is what is considered college credit work. And so for institutions that accept and use advanced placement credits, this would earn students credits at those institutions. Again, this is where the 80% proficiency would also play into factors. So if we were hitting 80% or more higher of students getting a 3 or more, we would consider that to be part of that 80, 90, 100 framework. So AP courses are another highlight. And then I want to promise you, I did not recruit the FFA students to come here tonight, because this is a slide we've been using that, in addition to talking about those academic proficiency components, we are also preparing students for lifelong success in a variety of other ways. And you heard the students that were here tonight talk so specifically about the hands-on opportunities. And what a comprehensive education provides is the opportunity for academic development and for those other kinds of opportunities, whether they be music, whether they be technology education, whether they be art, family, consumer science, business, that comprehensive curriculum that we have been blessed to be able to have at Northfield High School. Those things in conjunction with the academic program and the high level of academic programming that we offer, that is what is preparing students for lifelong success. You have to have the skill base, and then you have to have the dispositions and the persistence to be able to keep working. And this is a photo of our FFA, again, 60 members strong in just a couple of years. You've heard reports of their success at dairy evaluations and all sorts of things. You saw how TJ is preparing them to participate in the public square. So just so proud of these other things that we are offering as we move ahead. And FFA and the ag program are just going to continue to get stronger as we move forward. We just met today again on progress for the work-based learning program that we're looking to resurrect at Northfield High School. We already have state approval. We have multiple teachers who are have the endorsement. We are sending multiple more teachers to the free course that is offered for endorsement as well. And so we're really on that correct path to be able to get people those hands-on experiences. You all know about fiscal responsibility. So we share with the community that we are fiscally responsible and that we make the hard decisions when it's a problem before it becomes a crisis. And you were all heavily involved in the priority-based budgeting process last year. You had to make some very difficult decisions. And so we talk with the community about how we live out our commitment to stewardship. Again, we do things with people, not to people. Over 80 people involved. You know how many reductions we made. We know that it's a result of lower birth rates and the housing shortage and economic uncertainty. That prompted a superintendent focus area about enrollment this year. I'm happy to share with you, we're looking into doing, we have an enrollment study proposal from a consulting group called Teamworks to help us give some greater insight into our enrollment. And then today I just met with a professor from St. Olaf College. They have a community engagement class that we are going to be partnering with in January. And we are going to focus on the around 200 resident students who are choosing another traditional public school district. And so St. Olaf College, this class, they are going to help us do the focus groups. And we're going to simply ask questions like, what prompted you to select a district other than Northfield Public Schools? And then the second kind of question will be, what would it take for you to return to Northfield Public Schools? And so by having St. Olaf as a third party be able to conduct those focus groups, and they're going to be able to give us some insight, we think that that's going to help us try to understand that portion, right? Lower birth rates, we don't control that. We don't control the housing shortage, right? We don't have an opportunity to really factor into the economic uncertainty, but this is the area that we have an opportunity to try to make a difference. And so all of those things can be true, and yet this is an action that we can take to try to understand a little bit more about why our resident students picking another traditional public school district. We all know about the underfunded mandates, and I'm quite concerned right now. There's a commission that's getting together. It's made up of educators from across the state and other professionals to talk about special education. And they're charged with finding $250 million in savings within current special education practices, or that's coming off the education budget this coming year. So there's a lot of pressure on that because that'd be another $250 million cut that we would feel and other school districts across the state would feel. So that's just the latest example. And as it turns out, being responsible isn't fun, right? You made some very difficult decisions last spring to try to make sure that we can stay above the fray, right? As we try to see housing turnaround, to see the state budget turnaround. And so we're trying to continue to extend the marker, if you will, so that when things turn around, we still have the programming that makes people want to be here. So we've had a lot of joy. You hear a lot of joy at our meetings and throughout our halls every day. And you also know we've all experienced some pain, right? Budget reductions are painful. Some of the other things that we work through, talking about school security and safety, there's pain as well. And we acknowledge everything, right? We don't shy away. So we celebrate the joys, right? We enjoy those moments. We mourn the pain because we try not to just shuffle it off to the side. We try to lean into it and face it. And then we say, what's next, right? That's not just a little mantra. It's really a mindset that I hope that we continue to have, because it's not about what has happened. It's about how do we respond to it. And the road ahead is messy, right? We know that regardless of where you are, it is just messy right now, both nationally and internationally. The uncertainty, that's not a statement one way or the other. It's just simply as an acknowledgement of where people are at. In fact, I think a lot of people might feel like this right now. I love this picture of this little dude, right? That might make people feel like this, but we have to remember that while there are challenges ahead, and we know that we will face the challenges as we always have, straight on, and making the best decisions we can with the information that we have at the time, we know there's a lot of joy, right? You want joy, show up to that NCEC, right? Because there's lots of little kids who are joyful about learning. And we are focusing on what we can control. There's a lot of things that as a school district, we don't get to control. And so what we know in those cases, when we can focus on the things that are within our control, we have the ability to really influence those levers, if you will. And so we're trying to shut out the noise outside of us and focus on the things that we have the opportunity to influence. And we wholeheartedly believe that a strong public education is essential for a thriving democracy. We know that Horace Mann's vision of the common school was one of the greatest economic engines, right, of the last 150 years. We know how important it is. And we also know there's some questions across this country right now about the value of public education. And we shouldn't shy away from those questions. We should actually lean into them to talk about and to explain the real value that public education provides. And we're going to persevere because we always do, right? We are going to keep fighting the good fight because we think that public education and our democracy are inextricably linked together. And so we look forward, right? We, again, celebrate what we've done well. We have things that we need to improve, and we don't shy away from that. We say, what's next? We're looking at things like an artificial intelligence academy for teachers to see how does AI, be clear, that's not with students yet, right? But more so with teachers. How do we understand the value of artificial intelligence as we move forward? You've seen a number of the other ways that we lean into ambiguity and uncertainty. And I just think the community should be very proud. We should be very proud of what we have, because here's a picture of the staff that just earned their 25-year plaques. Greg mentioned like 40% of our middle school staff have been there 20 years or more, right? Retention is a really big deal. And so these are people who over the last 25 years have made a huge difference for the kids in their care. And they are dedicated to doing good things for kids. And at the end of the day, that if anybody just remembers one thing, right? When in doubt, to do what's next, do good things for kids. Now, I want to tell you, I am hoping to get a discount on our next transportation contract, because I did not know this at the time, but this turns out to be John Benjamin's grandson. So I'm hoping that all this publicity for his grandson gets us a better deal on the next transportation contract. Do you think that's a chance, Val? Probably not, but we can be hopeful. So that is the presentation that I have shared with folks over time. Again, we try to share the things that are successful. We try to share the things that are challenges and be as honest as we can about those things. We try to rally the community support, right, to be able to help us. It's not just about providing additional resources. It's about being supportive and believing in us, right? And I think that we provide a product to our community that they should be proud of. There's a reason that people want to be here, and it's because of you, the current stewards of this really important role, carrying on the tradition of decades of high quality school board governance who have given us a system that really does good things for kids. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can for you at this time. But thanks for listening to this, and I hope the people online who are watching will get a glimpse into the school district. Maybe they haven't from some of the other presentations that they have seen.
Thank you, Matt. Very thorough. Board members, do you have any questions or comments at this time? Maggie.
I'm curious about if you got any reactions or responses to the 80% academic proficiency goal. We are a well-informed group, so maybe we understand that that's a wonderful goal, but were there folks in the presentations who had questions about that?
So I think that the first audience I was actually concerned about that was with our staff. And I had a number of veteran teachers say to me, thank you. This is really good because it helps put our work in context and understand that it is not just a series of 1 year, book-ended results, that it is a process that lasts over several years and that we're all working toward that same goal. And they know children who are incredibly bright, right, who have great skills, but just aren't there quite yet on one particular measure, right? And so we've actually done a mapping of how does this look against our strategic commitments, and honoring that not every student's going to get there at the same time or the same way, but most should, right? And most should. And so I think it has relieved some stress, and yet at the same time created a sense of urgency to a certain extent. Now, for the groups that we've presented to, there have not been a ton of questions about it, partially because I do think that it does make sense to a lot of people, especially when we're with folks and we're able to explain it to them, right? Handful of questions, here or there. But when people hear about, I think if you have not been in a public school in some time, I don't think people quite understand the system of interventions that we now have and how finite and how detailed they are. And so when you start to talk about with people about those, they say, oh, I get that. That makes sense. So I agree with you. I think that if I'm some of us have this because we know it, right? But the more that we explain to people and share why, they are on board because they say, yeah, that sounds about right.
And my second question was about the 100% growth. I think
Yes.
that's also sometimes a difficult concept for people to understand, but the difference between measuring proficiency and growth. And can you talk just briefly about how teachers are tracking the growth and how they're going to reflect on that at the end
For sure.
of the year?
So some of that is, we've had a hardwired system for that for some time, typically in the tested areas, right? So when you think about specifically mathematics and reading, for years we have used some kind of additional assessment other than the MC. So for a long time it was the Northwest Education Association measures of academic process. We've used FastBridge. We're using that again now. We had used it years ago, went away from it, and came back to it because it was one of the screening tools that the state had authorized. We've used the STAR test over the years. We've used DIBELS over the years, the dynamic indicators of basic early literacy skills. Can pull that one out. And so we always look at the beginning and the end, right? So there are ways to chart growth, especially in traditionally tested areas. Now, charting growth in areas that have not had a standardized assessment, that is part of the work that we're doing now and over the next few years. Now, there's observable growth, right? So, for example, if you were to talk to TJ Austin, who is here tonight with our ag program, and you watch students, for example, at the beginning of their animal science program, and they see how they're taking their notes and how they're recording things at the beginning and at the end, right? You see how they're doing it more effortlessly. They know exactly what things to do, when to do it. You can observe growth, right? That's a little trickier to actually track that, right? In terms of a numerical piece, it can be done, but working on that, what we in research you'd call it a multi-methods approach, right? To be able to take a look at both the anecdotal or the qualitative and the quantitative side of it. So some of it is going to be taking qualitative data and trying to be able to make a chart out of it, if you will. At the end of the day, to me, one of the best measures of growth is student interviews, right? What can you do now that you couldn't do at the beginning of the semester, right? And at the end of the day, I think that's one of the greatest gifts that we can give to students. However we measure it, how we start reporting it, to me, the most important thing is that students recognize where they were at, where they are, and then they use that to understand that I can do hard things. I can learn new things. And sometimes it takes some time. Sometimes it takes perseverance. I don't get it right away, but if I keep at it, I can grow and see my own development. And so to me, at the end of the day, from a very philosophical perspective, that's what the 100% growth means to me, is that it is the students who internalize the ability to grow. We will produce charts for you. We will give you data, right? We'll continue to figure out how do we make qualitative things quantitative in the coming years. And at the same, and that's another part, that's a unifying factor, right? Because, the tested subjects really felt that kind of pressure for a while, right? And now as everyone has an opportunity to start investigating that, I think it's going to be good for our team in general. I could talk about it for a long time.
Anyone else, question or comment? Hey, Penny.
Thanks, Claudia. And thank you, Dr. Hillman. I just wanted to maybe make a clarification in case anyone that was listening to the presentation wasn't sure about that 80% goal. Is that combination of reading, math, and science, or are you looking for 80% reading, 80% math, 80% science?
Yes, we're looking at it just like the latter, right? So in every academic measure, seeking 80% academic proficiency. So we would be looking at individually mathematics, reading, and science. And then I would take it further. I would then take it to art, to music, to ag ed, to business ed, right? To family and consumer science, to social studies, right? To all of every subject as we continue to move forward, the vast majority of them do have state standards, right? And they are developing or are developing common assessments about how they measure. They don't, a lot of places have, a lot of our subject areas have state standards, but they don't have a statewide assessment, right? And so how the teachers and the team are measuring proficiency is another important thing, because it's not just about those 3 tested subject areas. Those are the folks that have been really kind of under the pressure for a long time because it's reported in the paper. We're seeking to expand that to everyone because, again, 8 of 10 in every subject area would be ideally what we're looking at. Even the AP exam, right? Even the ACT test, in terms of there's a college readiness score, the AccuPlacer assessment, another test that really measures readiness for technical colleges. Our goal would be on any measure that at least 80% of the students are meeting that cut score.
Okay, and then similar to Maggie's question about tracking, this would be, so we know that using the MCA is what we've typically done for the 3 that I mentioned, but then now you brought up, other subjects, areas. So then how are you expecting teachers to then come up with those scoring?
And that's what we're working on right now, right? And it's going to be part of our PLC work, right, over the next few years to finalize and to continue. And I put a quote in the narrative from Dwight Eisenhower, right, that said, plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. And of course, I love a good plan, so I want to be really clear, right, that the plan is important. But I think President Eisenhower's point was that people coming together to really dig into some of these difficult kinds of things, like how do you measure growth, for example, in orchestra, right? I mean, that's a very technical, how do you do that? And I think that for many years, and this actually goes to a question that someone asked about the activities in the activities report, right? They asked, Maggie, you asked it about that there are a number of activities that weren't represented in the spreadsheet, right? And so a year ago, we actually looked at how could we try to keep track of students being involved in anything in the community, because we know just being connected in some way is important. And we actually initially, we paused that because we thought it's too difficult actually to figure out if you're involved in something at your church, right? Or you're involved in something else there's a lot of community groups that we don't always, are able to get that information. Then we've come back, just like this case, about how do we measure growth in some of those non-traditionally tested areas. Just because it seems daunting to begin with doesn't mean that the exercise is not worth it, right? And so we will be working on it. We'll continue to work on it. And I think the most important thing is the discussions of how do we measure? And then we will come up with what is the metric that we use, and then we'll be able to report. But I think it's so important, especially right now at this time, when we're trying to emphasize a variety of experiences for our students, that we don't shy away from something just because we can't count it, right? I can figure a way to count almost anything, right? But sometimes it takes time to be able to develop what is the observable metric that we're using. So it is going to be a process, and one that we could have just said, we can just stick with the stuff that's numerically, we can calculate. But I don't think that's good enough anymore, right? And I think it's something it's incumbent upon us to be able to help try to figure that out as we move ahead.
Excellent. And then my second question is regarding that incentive
Yeah.
you mentioned. So you said that 10th grade, is it exclusive only to 10th grade testing, or are some of the other grades perhaps conducting some incentive programs, but maybe you just haven't noted that?
Yeah, so based on my understanding, Jenny, right now, what we have seen is some incentivization in both. There was 2 different efforts. One was in high school mathematics, and one was in high school reading. Now, remember, at the MCA is given to all students in all grades 3 through 8, right? So you take a reading and math test 3rd through 8th grade. You take a science test at the end of 5th grade, at the end of 8th grade, and then the end of biology, right? So for most students, that's 10th grade, but some students in some districts could be 11th grade. And then in high school, you take one reading test, right, in 10th grade, and a mathematics test in 11th grade. And so we had not seen the need, right, to yet, I should say, to incentivize anything below high school, because if you can read some national publications that say it is harder to motivate high school students to actually do their best on some of these statewide assessments where there's not a direct connection, to their post high school experience, or things like that. And so the reading incentive was successful, the math one not as successful, and so I think they're gonna look at something different for next year.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Question, comment? I had a question about the safety piece. You mentioned that we're moving from one reporting system to another.
Yes.
And I wanted to hear, or maybe I missed it, the reasoning why we're moving away.
So for a long time, we were part of a Rice County consortium using something that was called TIP 411. We learned that the county was no longer going to support that particular tool, and I don't know all the details why that's the case. People move on from things from time to time. And so when we learned that, we worked with the Northfield Police Department. We've changed the documentation that we use on our website. We've got every one of the references to Crime Stoppers, which is basically it's a 1-800 number that you can call to share, and then that gets back to the law enforcement in some way, shape, or form. But we knew that that was a stopgap measure. So we looked at a number of different things. We actually looked at, there's an anonymous reporting system through Crisis Go, which is one of the emergency communication systems that we use. But the Sandy Hook promise, of course, that was really started after the tragedy in Newtown, Connecticut. They have a nationwide anonymous reporting system, and there's a variety of different ways that you can set it up. So we've been investigating that. That's becoming more and more popular in Minnesota. And so, as I mentioned, we're going to Justin Robley from our Buildings and Grounds Department and his team are going to another session on Wednesday. They had an initial conference call, I believe, and then we are working toward it. It appears that it's almost certain that that is what we're going to shift to. And so the nice part about that, 24-hour staffed, and it's a nationwide piece. There's a number of different services that they can provide. And so we think that that is probably the next best step for us, because we don't have the ability as a school district to be able to run our own anonymous 24-hour anonymous tip system. So we need to find something that is reliable, that if people call, they know that they're going to be able to have a response and that the system is going to be able to get that information through.
Thank you. Anyone else? Question, comment? All right.
Thank
for
you
the
all.
report. Give you a minute to come back to your seat. Next, we have the All District Committee report, which you will be presenting on that as well. The All District Committee meetings were held Monday, October 6th. 6 committees met that evening: Activities, Communications, Equity, Facilities, Finance, and the Special Education Advisory. Would you care to update us on how that went?
Yes, just give me one moment to pull that up.
Excellent.
So as Claudia mentioned, we actually this year are holding 3 of the all district committee evenings. We started that last year and had 2 events. We did this so that we could have some cross-pollination of ideas and people meeting each other from different committees. It also makes it more efficient for board members, for district administrators, and people to come on the same evening. Now, we have some things that are a little bit different. The career technical education is going to meet separately as we move ahead. That was at the request of the folks who are facilitating that. And so, as you saw, we had a few dozen people attend. This was earlier in the year than it had been last year, so we look for better attendance at the next session in December. But we know that all of the committees had we had reports from all the committees that it was effective and that they had some good conversations. So we look forward to that, continuing to try to lean into that change.
And community members are still allowed to join those.
Absolutely. So if people would like to, in fact, when we talk with people or we email with people, we let them know, if they'd like to join one of our committees, they're welcome to do so at any time. It's kind of a rolling joining. We do one push each summer. We put it in our family update for several weeks and on our website. We've put it on our social media as well to invite people to sign up. And so we use that, and then we'll continue to invite people through the year.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone have a question or comment on this item? Okay, next we have the Facilities Committee report, and Board Member Amy Gerwitz was going to present. Should we just let that stand, or?
I think we should let it stand, yes.
That's in your packet. And then we have the Northfield full report.
Yes, and so I was at the Northfield Forward meeting, and what we really did is we focused this first Northfield Forward meeting of the year. We had 19 people in attendance at this session, and we previewed the Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness Report. So that's the report that used to be called the World's Best Workforce Report. So actually with that group, we shared the 80, 90, 100 framework like I shared with you tonight and asked for their feedback, and got some really good feedback from that group on that, and then got feedback about the Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness Report, because at the next board meeting, we'll have the public hearing at 5:15 before the board meeting. So that committee gets a chance to weigh in and help shape that report and the goals moving forward. And so Daryl Keller, who's leading that, made a few adjustments based upon that feedback.
Great. Any questions from the board members or comments? Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 7, which is our consent agenda. As a reminder, there were some personnel items in the table file added to that consent grouping. Is there anything anyone would like to pull from the grouping at this time for separate consideration? Is there a motion to approve the consent grouping? Thank you, Ben. Second? Thank you, Jenny. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Next is our items for individual action. We have 3 items tonight, and 2 of them are resolutions, so Kelly will help us out with that. We have the resolution of school board supporting Form A application to Minnesota State High School League Foundation. Let's see. Activities Director Mahal requests approval of the attached resolution supporting the district's application to the league for a Form A grant to offset student activity fees. I'll take a motion first and then open it for discussion.
Motion.
Thank you, Jeff. There a second?
Second.
Thank you, Corey. Right. Will you be fielding any questions, Dr. Hellman?
Yeah, I can feel this is a fairly straightforward request. We make it each year. So the State High School League Foundation allows school districts to make application to them for a couple of items. Form A is really about helping offset the cost of activities for students who are in need.
All right. Any questions or comments?
John is still here. Oh,
Yes.
there he is. Okay. I couldn't see him.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. I didn't realize. Any questions or comments for John or Dr. Hill? None at this time. All right. So we have a motion and a second. Kelly, will you help us with the resolution?
Butler,
Aye.
Epstein,
Aye.
Miller, Nelson,
Aye.
Quinnell,
Aye.
Gonzalez, George.
Aye. All right. Motion passes. Next is the resolution of school board supporting Form B application to Minnesota State High School League Foundation. The Form B is to provide seminars, training opportunities, or support for specific school functions for students, faculty members, officials, and others who are involved in athletic and fine arts program. I'll take a motion first and then open for discussion. Okay, thank you, Jenny. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Corey. All right, any questions at this time about Form B, the resolution? All right, I see none, so we will move to the resolution vote.
Butler,
Aye.
Epstein,
Aye.
Miller,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Quinnell,
Aye.
Gonzalez, George.
Aye. All right, thank you so much. Motion passes. Next is item C, policy committee recommendations, and I'll take a motion first, then we can discuss. Is there a motion to approve the policy committee's recommended changes to policies 448, 504, 508, 510, and 511? Moved by Maggie.
Second.
Okay, second by Ben. Thank you. All right, any questions on the policy committee's recommendations?
Again, these were presented at the last board meeting.
Okay, then we will move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Okay, item 9 is our items for information. We have a construction update report. Dr. Hellman, would you like to speak on that or let it stand?
I'm going to let it stand. There are not significant updates since our last report.
Okay, and that report, of course, is in the packet and available to all via the website, the district website. And then we have our comprehensive achievement and civic readiness presentation and public hearing. ACL Director Daryl Keller will summarize the 25-26 comprehensive achievement and readiness plan at the public hearing scheduled Monday, November 10th, 5:15. This is a public hearing that will precede our regular school board meeting. Any comments on that at this point?
I do not.
Okay, great. All right, item 10 is our future meetings. Those are Monday, November 10, 5:15, as I mentioned, the public hearing. Then a regular meeting, November 10th at 6 p.m. Monday, November 24th, 6 p.m., another regular meeting here in the same boardroom. And Monday, December 8th, 6 p.m., another regular school board meeting in this boardroom. That is all the business that we have for tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Maggie. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you all.